Yeah.
Everybody ready to go?
Let's do
Yes.
it.
Let's do it.
Right. So I don't know how many of you have any familiarity with living your best year ever or not, but we're just going to take it, I guess, from grade school, elementary school level, and just bring it to you. But the reason we're doing this today is, I guess, through Hardy's Heroes. Darren had brought it up during, I think it was module 16 or 17, and then I saw some people asking about living your best year ever in the Facebook group. So, I just put it out there that, hey, if anybody's interested in walking through it with us, we'll share it. So I'm Rob Commodari. My two counterparts, or two other musketeers here, are Mark Pallack. Mark, raise your hand there. And then we have Mark Brodinsky, if you've already seen on here as well. So the three of us, we got together, 10 years. This is our 10-year anniversary we've been doing it. So come December 31st, we've been working on this for like 10 full years. And it all came about 10 years ago when I was at a B&I group, and I had met this guy he was like 15 years younger than me, but we had this like-mindedness going on. And Mark Pallack and myself had known each other for, I don't know, 10 years prior to that already. And I said to my friend Pete, you got to meet this guy, Mark. So we ended up meeting, and I think, Mark, you might be able to explain this a little better because you two started talking about this living your best year ever piece. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, I think, the whole idea is how can we all kind of get together and share different ideas, get some good momentum and make things happen, as a group. So that's how it originally originated, like Rob had said.
So then us three got together, and then Mark Brodinsky joined along. So it was four of us for a few years, and about, I don't know, Pete left about 3 or 4 years ago. We said four. So we've been doing this thing for 10 years, like I said. And just to add a little humor to it, we gave each other like superhero names. And so, Mark, who are you? Mark Brodinsky, who are you?
Captain America.
He's Captain America. Mark Pallack, who are you?
I'm the Hulk.
You didn't bring your Hulk with you, did you,
I
Mark?
don't have my Hulk. Sorry. It's got to be somewhere in my office.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm Thor. If you can see my little Thor thing here, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Now, if you haven't noticed, look, if you see, I got a little black thing on Thor's arm. So Thor throws the hammer down, and apparently I threw the hammer down too hard. I broke his arm, so I got it taped up right now. He's in a splint. So anyway, so we just add a little humor to it, and so we got Captain America, we got the Hulk, and we got Thor. And as much fun as we like to have, we're really serious about doing this. And again, 10 years in, that's got to tell you something. So anyway, I just want to take you along. I'm going to share with you the beginning, how it started with us. And Mark, I think you were the first one to talk about doing the Darren Hardy thing, and then going into it. So what we do now is we take this manual, or this journal, if you will, and we work through it. And we'll go through it a little bit here in a minute, and Mark will both jump in. But over the 10 years, what we've done consistently is we take the information that Darren shares with us, we use it, and we get together every Friday morning, typically between 6:30, 6:45, and 7 in that time frame. And we get together in person, and we've been doing so for 10 years, except for when COVID hit. We started doing some virtual get-togethers. And for 2 hours every other Friday, we talk about what's in this journal. And then every Monday, we get on the phone for 30 minutes, and we talk about anything that's happened over the weekend or anything to come in the upcoming week. But we go over, if you can all mute yourselves, or I'm going to have to mute you myself. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure I know how to mute. Mute everybody. Mute all. All right. So I just muted everybody. So anyway, so every Monday we get on the phone for about 30 minutes, and we talk about what's happened maybe over the past weekend or what's coming the week ahead. So that said, does everybody have a journal? Does everybody have one? And just, give me a hands up if you have or don't, whatnot. So you got your journals. Okay. What I'll start with is I think it's the first 70 pages or so, talks about what you need to do. And really, it's the setup. The first 70 pages are the setup for the year to come. And the first and most important page is, in my book that I have, is page 8, is the commitment pledge. And you sign off on a commitment. You got to make a commitment to do this. And once you do that, you're in the game. And let's just say this is, I'll say, it's easy to do and it's easy not to do, but it is hard to get it set up. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes thought. And so the first page is the commitment page. You got to sign that. But then it goes into the next phase, which I think is very key and vital to the whole setup, is what were your 10 greatest happenings from the year prior? Because we're going to go back a year to go in to look forward into the next year. So this is not something, these first few pages of step 1 or 2 there are not something you want to breeze through. There's something I feel, and I think Mark would agree, that you need to really marinate on it, take your time and go through it over. Like I usually take a couple weeks, I'll jot some things down, and then I'll come back and I'll jot something else down. I'll think about it and I'll jot something else down. And if it's your first year doing it, it's the hardest, because once you do it year over year over year, during the course of a year, you're writing out some of your greatest happenings. You're writing out maybe what you're most proud of, what you need to work on, what some of your losses on, what your favorite words are, so on and so forth. So if you establish the first year, then I think it gets easier. So you go through these first, the 10 greatest happenings, and that's step 1. And then you go through, actually that's step 2, step 1, signing a commitment. Then you go through step 3. And if I'm moving too fast, Mark, jump in. We talk about gratitude. And that's important too, because I think gratitude is the foundation of everything we do, everything we are, and everything we want to be. So it's what are you grateful for? Whether it's people in your life, whether it's where you live, what about what you do, your gifts and talents, any gifts, like they talked about, gifts of knowledge, experiences, or luck that you might have. So you got to really take your time and go through that. Am I moving too fast? I guess if I'm muting you, you can't hear me. Mark, you want to jump? You good, Mark?
We're good.
So you move through this, and then you got to give yourself the life assessment, which I would say is somewhat important, because you want to see where you are. You don't know where you're going or can go until you know where you are, where you've been. So that life assessment tool is going to give you an idea. And Mark, why don't you chime in on that, and you can share like how that's changed for you over the years.
Well, I think for me, it's as Rob just said, you're just trying to get an idea where you are, right? What's your wheel look like? Because at the end of this exercise, you get kind of a wheel, and you can see where you're flat and where you look, where you might need some help with, and that's kind of, obviously it helps us all look at the current scenario and how we need and how we want to get better. How do we actually do it? And then you focus, focus on those areas of your life where you need to get better. And then you identify how you want to become, or what you need to change, what you need to stop, the energy that you need, and then you go for it.
And Mark, has your wheel changed shape over the years?
Yeah, I mean, actually, absolutely. I mean, I think everybody's wheel will shape depending upon where life, or where you want to take life in some cases, and where life, takes you. Obviously, the goal is to have, for me, kind of that balanced abundance flow feeling where it looks good, where you could actually drive on it, right? So you're not, because as we all know, everything affects everything. So if you're light in an area, chances are it's playing a big part in a lot of the other areas in our lives.
Mark
What do you think,
Brodinsky,
Mark?
you got to unmute yourself, Mark.
So it's 8 areas of life, and it's good, like Mark said, everything affects everything. So if you're deficient in one area, it's obvious once you get to that wheel what you need to work on. Or maybe something is too inflated and you got to pull back. But you definitely know where it is that you stand going into that year, and what should the focus be. It actually helps you come up with your 3 banner goals, because if there's something you want to work on, it's going to end up becoming a goal that you're going to strive for that coming year, and then you can track your activities toward it. The book is all about, at the end of the year, it's results, but the actual weekly rhythm register is about tracking your activities. If you track your activities, your results will come. And we'll be getting to that.
So Mark, has your wheel changed over time?
Oh, definitely. It's expanded. Like Mark said, it becomes more like a wheel you could drive on than one that's like has a big dent in it.
Because let's face it, we all get flat tires, right?
Right.
You know, and the road, the more out of sync that wheel is, the more bumpy the ride. And let's face it, life can be a bumpy ride, and it should be a bumpy ride out of the gate, because if you haven't experienced any of this and you don't know what you're doing, this gives you like the roadmap to kind of figure it out. So like Mark, like I think you made a comment about where you need to pull back. What did you mean by that?
Just if you're spending too much time in one area, I mean, it's easy sometimes to get caught up in, hey, my business life is great, but my relationship life is not so great. And so it's a good snapshot to know that what you need to work on is right in front of you, because it's easy to do that. Or maybe the relationship's great and the business isn't doing what it is, or maybe the financial isn't where it is or it needs to be. You have to focus on the whole wheel and all those 8 aspects of categories of life. It's probably one of the best exercises in the book to take a look at all those areas, because everything affects everything.
And so like every year when we go through this, we kind of like share each other's wheels with each other. And a 9 for me could be a 6 for Mark, or 5 for Mark Pallack. One area could be a 7 for Mark Brodinsky in another area. So the mistake you can make is start comparing yourself to each other. And I think the idea of it is to compare yourself to you. It's like, and I don't want to say you against you, but it's you and you. It's not Mark and Rob or Mark and Mark. It's you, and you got to measure where you are. We just hold each other accountable as we go through this process every year. And what we do, and I probably should have started off a little different here, but what we do, either the last 2 weeks of the year or the first week of the year, depending on how we're running, we spend a few hours one day going through this journal with each other. And that day's usually, when we first started, it was like a half-day thing, like 4 or 5 hour event. And now we kind of got it down to 2 to 3 hours, right? Would you guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
As
And
long
then,
as you put in the work in advance. If you don't put the work in advance, it'll take a lot longer.
well, Mark just hit a nail on the head. He talked doing the work. You got to do the work. You know, Mark, show your journals.
Show my journal. There we go.
So there's 10 years of work right there, everybody. It's 10 years of work. And, you know, if you don't do the work, you know, I got mine sitting right here. You know, if you don't do the work, you don't get the results. So the last 2 weeks of the year, the first 2 weeks of the year, wherever we are in time, we go through this whole book together. And then what we do midway through the year, we have Mark Pallack has a place down Ocean City, Maryland on the beach. We will spend 2 or 3 days there, and we do a mid-year review. And then at the end of the year, we go to the mountains of Western Maryland, where we spend 2 or 3 days, and we do an end-of-year review. And we go through this whole thing. So I'll get into that a little bit later as far as what that process looks like. But anybody have any questions on the wheel?
Hi, this is Amy Woody from Salt Lake, Utah.
Amy.
I do have a question, if I may, please. So I think one of the challenges for me is it's intimidating because, you know, we do those life assessments and the wheel is lopsided because we have strengths in some areas and we don't have strength in others. And so if we had those strengths, we would already be doing it. Like Darren says, you have to grow into those goals. So how do you set that up? I mean, do you follow maybe the Jumpstart framework for setting up the goals? I think that's where I see this book, and it has instructions and it has pages to go through and you write stuff out, but it's like, you know, the reality is that I still don't know how to do the things that I'm trying to learn how to do. So how do I best build out my circle if I'm making goals in my weak areas without sabotaging myself into an area where I have not thrived and still have not figured out how to thrive yet?
Well, I think my response would be, I use this analogy a lot. It might even be in the book, is that, you know, if we're going from Baltimore, Washington International, or our airport locally, and we're trying to get out to LAX, the airplane's off course 90% of the time, but it makes it there, right? So that's kind of the first way I would kind of look at our lives, right? Because we're always moving in constant direction. But I would do some soul searching and get into a quiet place and spend a few hours and just envision look at these spheres of your life and think about maybe what you want to be or who you want to become, and just start there. Just start dreaming and make it just kind of a really, a fun exercise. And then from there, you might say, well, okay, well, if I'm not in a position to, save this much money, then think about what you'll need to do to be able to do that, from a financial standpoint. And then that way, it might not be as overwhelming to try to kind of be everything to everybody, including yourself.
Great insight, Mark. Mark Brodinsky, you want to add to that?
You're also, by the end, you're narrowing it down. So like, you go from top 10 goals to 3 banner goals. So what you're really focusing on is pretty simple. I think I heard, I don't know who said it, but if you have more than 3 goals, you probably have none. So it's just really paring it back to once you get to those 3 banner goals, it should actually be pretty simple. And they're going to be pretty big goals that you're going after. It's usually in 3 areas of life, which, I mean, for me, it's almost always health, business, financial. Once in a while you throw another one in there, you have a personal passion or something you really want to accomplish, but it seems to come into those 3 areas where it's going to be something about work, something about health or personal, and then maybe something about financial pieces of this. So it's just pare it back to make it simple for yourself. It seems overwhelming at first when you first go through the first part of the book, but once you get to the top 10 goals and then your 3 banner goals, and you've narrowed down those 3 banner goals. The hardest thing, I think Rob will agree, is once you've done the 10, and Mark will agree, once you've done the 10, you're like, all right, well, which 3 am I going to choose that I'm going to focus on for the coming year? And you have to find peace with that. Once you do that, though, and you put it down and you say, all right, this is it, you just got to focus on it and stay with it.
Well, and the beauty of what you just said, Mark, is that, okay, you got 10 left, you got to pick 3. Well, once you pick those 3, some of it carries over to those other 7. Would you agree with that? Like some of that's, it's just going to carry over. But Amy, to get to more in your question is like, if I've heard you right, it's like there's overwhelm here, especially if this is the first time you've ever looked at this book. It is overwhelming. It's a lot of work to do. And that's one reason I suggest in the early parts of it, you don't just sit down there one day and in an hour and a half, 2 hours, fill it all out. You really got to take time, think about it, marinate, and come back. But the next section after the life circle, it's called the Grand Design Worksheet. And this is almost like a mind dump where you have these 8 different areas of your life, and you're just going to write a bunch of goals, a bunch of things that you want to do in those 8 different areas. And just think about it. If you had 5 or 6 goals in each area, you're going to have anywhere from 40 to 50 total goals. Now you're talking about overwhelm. Well, that could be even more overwhelming. Now you're like, man, I got 40 or 50 things that I want to do this year. And you're like, where the hell do I start? And so, Amy, I don't know if that, so I think partly going back and setting up the foundation of those first few pages, that helps kind of catapult you going forward. So it's like where you've been, what you've been grateful for, what's happened in the past, and now what do I want going forward? And so that next, I'm sorry,
Robert. Sorry, Michael Annis. May I add something to this as well on this Wheel of Life part, if I may?
Sure, but let me just finish what I was saying there, Michael.
Please.
Anyway, you take those 40 or 50 goals, and then you're going to dwindle them down, which is the next section. So you try not to let that overwhelm you too much, because you're going to look at this page and you're going to say, this is a huge mountain. How the hell am I going to climb this thing when I got to get from 40 or 50 to 3? So go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, beautiful, Robert, Mark, thank you so much for putting this together, and thank you for inviting us here. It's beautiful. I just wanted to add, Amy, because I noticed your question in the beginning. Before coming over the Darren Hardy world in the last year and a half, I was with the Tony Robbins world and working on the Tony Robbins team, and did these exercises with the Tony Robbins team the same way we're doing them with the Hardy Heroes team. This Wheel of Life exercise, the best way to look at it, Amy, is this is your forest. This is everything going on that you have. And then you're looking at where are you at today inside this forest. So the first time I did this, all these areas of life, my health, my relationships, my career, my finances, they were 2s and 4s. And I had a really bumpy wheel. but I also didn't have a lot of strengths and I had a lot of weaknesses, as you were saying in the beginning. I learned to develop the strengths and the weaknesses, use my strengths to develop the weaknesses to a point where 4 or 5 years later, when I would redo this as the same every year, I redid this wheel of life, it would then be 7, 8s, and 9s. And it was weird how now that everything was at a place where I saw my strengths, I knew how to work on my weaknesses, I had a tool belt, I could create things from 2s and 4s to 7, 8s, and 9s. It's where my life just totally excelled because I realized now I'm in control. I flipped it around to build to this point where everything was there. And as Mark, and Robert was saying, the wheel changes every year. It also gets to a point where you decide which ones you want to change. When I looked at my health and I was at a point where I was a drunk and doing drugs and sleeping on the couch, that was a 2 that year. When I got to the point where I decided I was going to be an Ironman, and I got to the point where I can do a marathon, I can bike 180 kilometers, I can swim 4 kilometers, but I can't do it all in the same day, I still put my health up there at a 9. I was eating well, working out well, but I could not do an Ironman. Still haven't yet to this day. That's how I took an 8 to a 3 because I focused only on how do I increase my endurance. And now I only have to tweak those little areas inside those wheel of life to be able to decide which areas do I want to increase and which areas do I want to lower, which leads right to what Robert said. If you made plans in all of them, it would be overwhelming. When you look at the forest and then you say, these are the 3 areas that are the lowest, or as I like to do, these are the 2 areas of the lowest and the one that's the best, increase the 2 and use the other one to help boost it up. And I just focus on 3 areas each year. Depending on which year, who knows?
It changes. Michael, thank you for sharing that. And by the way, my son just did an Ironman triathlon about 2 months ago. So
Nice.
You'll get there, man. You'll get there.
And the road to the journey is the best part, my friend. Thank you.
One of the coolest things I've seen. I've told the story to Mark. Every time I tell the story, I cry. So it's good. It's a good thing, man. So I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. Amy, does that help? Are you still there?
Yes, absolutely did help. Very enlightening. Thank you to everybody who contributed to those responses. I appreciate your time.
You're quite welcome.
Hey, Amy,
Anybody else have a question before we move to the next stage?
Amy, did your book come with 4 CDs? No.
Sorry, trying to unmute. I don't know. I got it just this year. I've got it on my lap. I don't think it, did you say CDs? I don't think it
They
came
probably
with
don't
CDs.
include that any. You know what? I guess CDs wouldn't be included anymore. But
Not anymore.
that was
No.
one of the
Yeah,
best
10
things.
years ago.
Well,
Mark,
they're in they're in our vault. Like,
right.
there's a
Okay.
training in the
Okay.
vault that we can listen to. It's
You
like
should
an hour and
listen
a
to
half.
those. You should
We've been doing
listen
it
to
for
those.
10 years. That's why we were in a CD era.
CDs. But those, I can tell you, if it's in the vault, listen to it, because hearing Darren explain how to do it in his calming voice and reassuring voice actually helps you a lot, especially if you're doing it for the first time. I listened to those CDs like driving around in my car when I first got the program. Again, we're talking 10 years ago, but I probably listened to it 6 times because it was perfect. The way he explained it, it made it seem simple and easy to do, not as overwhelming. And there's actually parts of that CD that are not in the book, which is really good, especially about relationships. And the relationships part is eye-opening. It made me also realize not only did I have to create this journal, I had to cut some people out of my life so the journal would work. So if it's in the vault, I would go in and listen to it. It really is a difference maker in this whole process.
And Darren does talk more about this book. I think it was module 17, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what I guess inspired me to throw this out there. But yeah, thanks for saying that, Mark. It's important. Hey, Mark Pallack, if you're still there, you're there, right?
Yeah.
If you want to add in there, like, how do we go from those like 40 or 50 goals to the 10? Like, what do you do? What's your thought process?
Well,
Because that's the next step. That's
It's
the next
really,
step.
this book for me is just a constant assessment of kind of where I am in life. And then the neat thing, like Michael was saying a little earlier, is you start to develop this self-confidence and self-respect for your process. It's very humbling, right? Because we all have adversities and so forth. But you get to a point where you're pretty confident that you can kind of change your life's trajectory, right? So when you start writing these things down and reviewing them and looking at them and staring at them and have these deeper revelations every day or every week, it's a big deal. But I think the easiest way to get started with this is just to think about, as everybody's kind of alluded to, one or two areas of your life where you want to improve on, or you want to focus on, I should say, and think about what you want the end game to look at. That's kind of where I would start it out, so it just doesn't get too overwhelming, and try to have a partner or partners or a group where you can, talk through this with them, because I'd say it's very challenging if you try to do it by yourself.
I have a question when you get a chance.
Yeah.
So I'm new to this. I've started it in May actually, and I found that I had goals, but then going through the hero's journey, I feel like my goals have really changed. So once you pick your 3 goals for the year, do you continue to do those goals, even though I think hero's journey has just changed us so much over the past year, and what I thought was important in the beginning of the year is differently than how I feel now. So once you pick your 3 goals, do you stay with them, or do you adjust them as the year goes on?
Yeah, I mean, my response would be, it's your book, right? It's your life. So, and it's happened to all of us throughout the course of the year, is they will change or could change potentially. So I go with that. If it's truly what you're thinking and feeling, you need to kind of deviate or pivot, I would say, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Debbie, in the football world, we call that an audible. So you can call an audible whenever you want. Like Mark said, this is your life. This is your book. If something changes, then change it. And if you have a mastermind group or somebody told you, and I like to use the word capable instead of accountable. If somebody's holding you capable of what you can do, then share it with them. But I think that's great. Mark Brodinsky, you want to add to that?
There's nothing wrong with changing and pivoting. It's happened before that someone has changed a goal or expanded on it. Or I was looking at my book while you're talking, and my second goal actually modified itself in the middle of the year because of something that happened with my business. Excuse me. So I had to modified that goal, actually expanded on it. So yeah, you can adjust it. It's whatever you're working on. I think that the hero's journey has changed you and changed what it is you want to accomplish. There's nothing wrong. You don't sit there and go after something you're no longer passionate about anymore. You got to replace it. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Does that help, Debbie?
Yes, thank you very much.
I also have a question, or more something to add to that. So I was given the Living Your Best Year Ever by my facilitator, Floor. I'm Shelley Reamer from Caledonia, Ontario.
A lot of Canadians here today.
So and there's 2 people from my actual huddle who are on here today too. So if Jennifer and Carol don't know, the resource to find, I think the CDs that you're referring to are from the resource that I started watching recently, but because I was given the Living Your Best Year Ever, it didn't pop up in my vault. So I'm assuming, and Dion actually put it in the chat. So that if you don't have the Living Your Best Year Ever in your vault, that's where you go and you sign up for it there, and they'll throw it into your vault for you.
Kelly, I gifted a couple of them, and I emailed them and gave them the email address, and they were able to give them access to their own vault. So yeah.
That's great.
So,
to be honest with you, I didn't know they put the Living Your Best Year Ever in the vault. So that's good. So
do they do that when you purchase the book, or?
Yeah, they do. I purchased 3 of them for myself, and then I gifted 2 of them, and I just emailed them and asked them to give them access to it, and they did.
Okay, perfect. I'll let Floor know that when she gifts them, that she can send on the information, because I just had to find it on, as I started reading through, I went and looked for the resource, and then I found it and I was able to get it.
Right.
You can also add them yourself. You just go to that website, click it, download it, and add it to your vault if you already have one.
Cool.
Thanks for the info. So anyway, let's keep moving forward here, because there's other stuff we need to cover. So now, like, you've had your 40 or 50 and you dwindle them down to 10. And now you have your 10, like Mark was saying before, and you pick 3, whatever 3 most important things you want to do. And typically there are 3 different areas of your life. And then, so that's that piece of it. So you have your top 10 goals, and now you have your banner 3, whether you want to call them your big, hairy, audacious goals, or banner 3 or vital 3, whatever you want to call them. There's your vital, that's the next step of where you're at now. So then I think, I don't know if it was Amy or somebody said something, maybe it was Michael, but the next part, it's called the magic factor worksheet. And this is where you take your 3 goals and you start working with them. And it says, like, the first thing you got to ask yourself is, who do I want to become? What do I want my life to look like? And then you start going through the examples or the worksheet there of what you need to, the spaces you need to fill out, or the questions you need to answer, whether it's, who do you need to become? What new habits or disciplines you need to start? What do you need to get rid of? Or what do you need to change? So it takes time. Again, you just can't run through this like that and be done. The more time I think you marinate on this, the more time you put into it as far as thought process and just maybe jotting down some side notes. Because what'll happen is I'll start this out, and then during the day I'll be thinking about something, and I'll just, I got to add this to my journal, and I'll put it on a piece of paper, and I'll come back and add it later. So that magic factor worksheet is important to give you more of a roadmap for the 3 specific goals. Any questions on that? So then the next part is step 7. It's like your action plan. You come together and you write an action plan. And look, I think Mark and Mark both would agree with me on this, and I can only speak for me, is that I struggle with this every year because I try to use some of what he has there and his framework and use it for my own. But you just got to go through it and, what's your immediate destination, by when, who's impacting you along the way? Are there going to be any mentors, coaches that are going to be walking you through it, accountability partners? What kind of research do you need to do? What resources might you need? So these are all different things that are in there, and you want to put a time frame on it, like when do you want to do it? So like, I'll go back real quick, and like my top 10 goals, they're not all by December 31st, 2021. Some of them might be by June or by May or by August or whatever. So whatever you choose your time destination to be is up to you. Obviously, you might want to push yourself harder to get it done sooner, then put it in there, and then you work towards that. And then you could, like, if you hit that goal, then throw another goal in there for the rest of the year if you want. Whatever you choose to do. Again, it's your book and your life. I like the way Mark said that before. Mark, you want to jump in?
I think the other thing I would say that's important with all this is that remember there's only one of you and how important and good you are. And you might not need you don't want to go look at this thing as like you need a 180, makeover, right? Because when we try to do way too much, you just sometimes you just do nothing. So I would just try to focus on, a couple of degree shifts in those specific areas that you want to hone in on, so that, right out of the gate on January 1st, you don't feel like you've got 32 different new activities you need to master in a week or 90 days or for the year. It just gets to become too much. So just try to dummy the stuff down so that, again, you're looking at 2 or 3 ideas that it's going to allow you to become a better person, and enjoy the ride. I mean, listen, I'm telling you, these books, it's a big freaking deal. Like what we're all doing and talking about. I mean, I can attest to this, that if I would have never known that any of this existed, I wouldn't be where I am today. So we've got 10 years of history and track records, and it's a big deal. And I can't wait for you guys to take charge with it.
So real quick, Mark Pallack right here, he's the Hawk. And in real life, he's probably weighs about 125 pounds soaking wet. And he's David Banner. But when he gets focused on this stuff, he becomes the Hawk. And he becomes a badass. And that's why we call him the Hawk. And Mr. Mark Brodinsky over here, Mr. Captain America, he's always there to save the day. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark covered a lot of it. I mean, once we get into the weekly rhythm register, I'll talk a little bit more, because once you get to those 3 banner goals, I think sometimes people get lost in the fact you have to have all your activities focused on just those things. But it's interesting how you end up tracking some other things that are part of your foundation system. every day. And I'll talk about that once we get in that register.
We're going to do that here shortly. So, because the next after that, the magic factor is just really what's your plan in the next 24 hours and next 30 days? How are you going to get the ball rolling towards those 3 goals? And you want to label that out. And look, Mark and I, we do not do this perfectly. We go through stretches where I went through a stretch just this year where I went 3 weeks where I didn't fill it out. And like we were holding each other, I guess, capable or accountable, if you will. Like we would take a picture every Sunday night of our journals and send them to each other. So that's the way we knew each other was doing it. But I can sit here and tell you we haven't done a good job the last couple months. But over the course of 10 years, I'd say we've done a pretty good job, even a great job overall. But so you want to do the take action worksheet, and we're just going to start getting you moving towards those goals, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a piece of research, whether it's reading something real quick. So what's going to get you moving in that direction? So then any questions on that? Because we want to get into register right now.
A quick question.
Sure.
When you're setting these deadlines and when you're planning your action out, are you guys using kind of like the Genesis deadlines, or are you just throwing dates out there? Or I guess what would be your recommendation is finding a realistic end date or goal date, in your opinion?
I mean, my answer to that is that depends on you. That depends on what you want. You know, like I could sit there and say, hey, I want to do this by December 31st, or I want to do this by, May 30th, but what's your deadline? And, like the crazy thing is there's this book out there, it's called The 12-Week Year. If we set a goal January 1st for the end of the year, usually we don't start working hard on that goal to the last 12 weeks, maybe even the last 8 weeks. So my encouragement is to pick a date that you want to hit, that you want to target. And then you gotta focus on that and draw out your habits and your goals and whatnot.
So whatever date you would pick, regardless if it's over aggressive or not, throw it out there and try to achieve that date. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I would tell you. I mean, I don't know if Mark have anything other than, different to say, but that's what I would tell you.
I mean, Ivan, I'm not over embellishing this. When you start writing this stuff down and when it starts happening, you just marvel at it. It's like you're in all of the action. I'm sure to agree, we've all done things where we've written it down. But once you start writing this down and focusing in it and looking at it and doing the work, your life changes, So some things you think you might not be able to do, it might take you a long time, all of a sudden, truncate, and it takes you a lot less. But I think you just write the stuff down and put a goal that you think is kind of, what's the acronym SMART, specific, measurable, accurate, relevant, timely,
right?
And start cutting trees down.
I love that. Start cutting trees down. Write that one down, everybody. Start cutting trees down.
It's a good
That's
one.
Great. Hey, Mark Brodinsky, you want to start off the weekly rhythm register with everybody?
Sure. I mean, this is the heart of the whole thing right there. That weekly rhythm register. So what gets measured gets managed. So if you're putting down your 3 banner goals, then you break it down into big goal 1, 2, and 3 on that page here, and you're going to make some notes about for the week. And then at the bottom, it's got your big 3, your showtime events, because you got the big 3 for the week, the showtime events for that week too. And then the weekly rhythm register right here, where you're going to put your behaviors or actions, set your goal, and then did you achieve it? And you can see I have -1, -2, checked, -1, check, -2. So you're going to be off track a lot. Like Mark Pallack said earlier, if you're flying a plane from Baltimore to Los Angeles, the pilot is off track like 90% of the time. It's the tweaking, right, to get you back on track to where it is that you're going, what your destination is. But if you don't have this to do, you have no idea what progress you're making. And the activities, like I said, are not always exactly tied to my banner goals. Some of these are foundational things that I do, like my miracle morning, to make sure that I'm doing the things that I need to do each day to be successful. And the others are directly tied to my goals. And then reviewing it at the end of the week, your wins, your losses, your fixes, your lessons, and then what else you're grateful for. Gratitude is always part of that. And doing this every week, I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. And like Mark Pallack said, you write it down and you start to see it manifest itself, and you're just amazed that these things actually come to fruition because you tracked your activities. Because most people do not. This is not a calendar. This is not a day planner. It's a life journal. And you're literally changing your life every single year. And we'll talk about what we do end of year a little bit later.
Yeah, so
That's the best part.
yeah, what you mean? What, Mark? The end of the year?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're building up to the crescendo here, everybody.
Building to that, right?
This is great. So if everybody has a journal, you want to turn to one of those rhythm register pages. You know, you have your goals for the quarter and you have your goals for the month. And so that quarter is like that 12 or 13 week time frame. Now, in Darren's, Mark and I have had a little beef with this because we figured there should be 52 weeks spelled out here, but there's 12 weeks and a break, 12 weeks and a break, 12 weeks and a break, and 12 weeks and a break. And I guess we're hard nosed and we want 52. So there's only 48 weeks in here if you haven't checked that out yet. Anyway, but so you put your goals for the quarter and then, okay, what can you do this month to work towards that quarterly goal, which is part of the big three. Does that make sense, everybody? So you have your quarterly goals. What can you do the month ahead towards the big three? Okay. And then you fill out your goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 3. What are they? And then fill in what you plan to do that week. What are some of the things you can do that week underneath those goals to get to where you want? And then then you put some of those items in your rhythm register. Now, the big question, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were saying something.
Just going to say that again, this is your journal, right? I ignore the big goals for quarter, and I never change my 3 banner goals. In that box on the left are my big goals for the year. I don't do that. I continue to put my 3 banner goals for the year, so they're right in front of me every single week. I never forget them. I'm staring right at them. They're staring back at me. I don't make it about the quarter. I just continue to put my 3 banner goals there. You can make the book however it is that you want, because that's the way it used to be. They changed this thing a couple of years ago. We had 52 weeks. We didn't have breaks, and it always had your 3 banner goals for the year. They switched it up. I'm like, well, I don't have to change this because you did.
That's a great point. Again, it's your book and it's your life. And they're your goals. So you can customize it any way you want. Like Mark Pallack said before, it's hard to do this on your own. So if you have somebody else with you and walking this journey with you, it's much more helpful.
Hey, Rob, you cannot understate that, okay? Because I tried to do this myself. If I didn't have these 2 guys who've become brothers to me, I 1000% advise you find 2 other people in your life to do this with. You need an accountability partner. You need someone else to celebrate your victories and get you through the losses, and just be there for each other. It's a game changer to have. You don't have to call it a mastermind group, but you got to have some people to do this with you. You don't have to, but it'll make all the difference in the world if you have, like what Rob talked about, when we meet every other Friday for about 2 hours and have a call every Monday for 30 minutes. That's the way it's kind of set up in those CDs too, for Living Your Best Year Ever. Game changer. Game changer. I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't have these 2 other guys with me doing this together. And we have a great time doing it and celebrating our lives and how they've changed.
And look, let me add this. It's not all sunshine and roses.
No.
It is not all sunshine and roses. So we will dig at each other. We will ping at each other. There's tears, there's laughter, and there's I mean, it's somewhat of a I guess it's a journey. It's a journey and it's experience. And there's days when I come to the Friday morning meeting, I would say, man, there's nothing I look forward to more every other Friday, getting together with these guys. And as we grew along and closer along the way, there were some days that I would get up and like, I know I got to bring my shit to the table today, and I don't feel like it, because when I do, these guys are going to call me out and they're going to challenge me. And I'll drive to Mark's office where we usually meet. I'll drive there. I'm like, am I going to share? Am I not going to share? Am I going to share? Am I not going to share? And I'm like, I know the right thing to do is to share. And then it's like you're putting yourself up on the cross and say, guys, hammer the nails in, here we go. And then, but I'm always glad that I share, because even though I might not like initially what's said, I know it's for my good, and I know it's for the love of each other. We do this out of love. There's no question about it. We do it out of love. And I think I can speak for all three of us on that, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it gets, I mean, you're in the bunker, right? It's like the monotony of activity that's really where we become really, really successful. That's my belief. It's doing these activities really, really well, becoming an expert, in them. And as Rob said, you're in the bunker. It's very dirty. It can get ugly. You're tired. Sometimes you're very, grinding. But it helps you to learn a lot about yourself and ultimately change some of those things. But from a bigger standpoint, to be able to kind of reclaim your identity, so to speak, with all of these successes that are really ultimately between you and a small group of people that are calibrating this journey with you. And it is a remarkable ride.
Thank you, Mark. So anyway, I talked about that page here, the quarter, the month goals, and then you jot down your big three. Now, this other part, which was a new part Darren added a few years ago when he changed the book, was the Vortex. And Mark and I were like, what the heck is the Vortex? And then Darren actually explained it in that module when he got into it, and he called it the Devil's Vortex. So that Devil's Vortex are things that you may have on your plate that you want to do that week that are not focused on your big three. So these are things that could be distractions. I say the word could be. So it could be busy work that's taking you away from your big three. Now, Mark Brodinsky and I were talking about this. I don't know if it was earlier today or last week or whatever, Mark, but you added something else, and I can't remember what you said about the Vortex. Do you recall, Mark?
Well, we initially thought it was like when all these things come together, what does it create? But it's the exact opposite. It's what is taking you off course, what is distracting you and getting you away from focusing on your banner goals. It's all the things Darren talks about, those things that are really meaningless that you're focusing on, that give you that quick hit of dopamine that you shouldn't be paying attention to. All those should go in your Devil's Vortex, because everything else you should be focused on, moving you forward. Those things are the things that throw you off track.
Mark Pallack?
I still haven't figured out what it is, so I'll just defer.
We've had this discussion many a days, people. It wasn't easy to figure out, and it's when I heard it on that module that I called Mark and Mark up. I said, Darren explains what the Vortex is in the module. So it's things that take you away, and basically says if you have something in that Vortex, you really shouldn't be doing it that week, or it should be at the very bottom of your totem pole of priorities to address. So then look, then Mark Brodinsky explained some of the weekly register items over here. So those are items or activities you're going to do. And then Mark said there might not always be towards his big three, but it's something in there that will contribute to that. Isn't that what you said, Mark?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what I learned from Mark Pallack is over time, like I'm a guy, like I see 10 lines there. I'm like, I got to fill out 10 lines. You know, you want to make this simple. Like he talked about bigger, easier a couple modules ago. So like Mark Pallack, I remember the first time, like he had like 5 or 6 of those lines filled out. I'm like, dude, you didn't do the whole thing. He goes, well, I don't need to do the whole thing. I don't know if you recall that, Mark. This is years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're selling us short, pal. I want to see all 10 lines filled out, but you don't have to. Just because there's 10 lines, it doesn't mean you have to have 10 activities to focus on during the week. You do you. You do what's important to you. Now, I encourage you to have more than one, but you got to figure it out along the way. Okay.
Right. And what this ultimately helps you, what it helps me do too, is it gives you a sense of high awareness. Right. So if you're looking at this thing, I'm looking at one of mine and it says nutrition, and you've got an event at 6:15 where there might be alcohol and there might be bad food. You're thinking ahead of what are you going to do when you have a choice to drink or eat. Do you want to, imbib, or do you want to have something ready when you get home? And then that gives you that choice. It's really the awareness that comes with this book is really what we're searching for, is the ability to make the right choice at the right time based upon our awareness.
Thank you, Mark. Mark Brodinsky, anything from you on that?
And I was just looking at one of my old books. It was so much simpler. When it had 52 weeks. It had wins, losses, your register, what was important, what you're grateful for. It wasn't as they tried to pretty it up, but it's no. I mean, track it. I mean, that's all I can say. I run a meetup called Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. And every time I do that, it's once a month. In fact, my next one's coming up tonight at 6:30 on Zoom. I got about 1,300 people that are members of the group. And I always go over principles of change and make it, I give them a tracker they could download to track their activities, because that makes all the difference, right? That tracker, I said, what gets measured gets managed. So if you're going to track, hey, did I read this week? Did I read 10 pages every day? Did I focus on gratitude? Do I have a gratitude exercise? Am I focusing on health? If just those three things alone, if all you did was track those three things, your entire life would change over the course of really a couple of months. But over the course of a year, you could transform yourself. So tracking is everything. And the weeks that I don't track, and we've all fallen off, the wagon, probably more this year than any other year. But on the weeks that I don't track, I don't feel as grounded. I feel like there's something missing. I mean, I take the book to bed with me and I go, I look at my day. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? So I can look at that, assess it, and go, well, you know what? Tomorrow I better kick ass in these other areas because I didn't do 3 of these things. But if you don't have that ability to manage and measure what it is you're doing, then you're off track because it's all stuck in your head.
Yeah.
And it's like marbles being knocked around and they just bounce off each other. You have no structure and no sense of purpose as to where it is you want to go.
I got a quick point too. I mean, that Mark said too, tracking, and if you do embark on this journey, at the bottom of that register is the review for the week. So I would, like, what I do is I spend my Sunday morning and I review the week. That's the time that I've allocated to doing that. And sometimes every once in a while I'll miss it. Like Mark said, you get off kilter a little bit. But if you do decide to do this for the review, and think about a time where you want to track this toward the end of the week, because that's where all of these ideas come out, because you're writing your wins and losses, fixes and lessons. Whereas if you didn't have this stuff, it would be gone. You kind of forget about all of it. So figure out a way to when you want to capture this every week, and I would try and stick to that.
And so this is where the beauty, I think, of the year comes into play. When you review, now it's 48 weeks, but when you review your week in and week out, and you jot down your wins, you jot down your losses, you jot down whatever fixes you need to make and lessons you learn. We used to call them aha moments. So whatever lessons you learn, and then you jot down what you've been grateful for the week. You do that for 48 weeks. I think Mark can both attest to this. You're going to have a remarkable year. And every loss that you have is a win when you think about it, because from every loss comes a lesson, becomes a moment of, okay, what can I do better? What can I do differently? And so you pile these up over the course of a year. And then it's when our like favorite part of the year. I mean, we have a good time at the mid-year get together, but our end of year is like a month from today or tomorrow, I think it is. We're getting together for 3 days, 2 nights and 3 days, and we're going to go over our wins for the year, our losses for the year, any aha moments we had, and what we're grateful for. And we spend the first, I guess, day, the first whole day we spend going through all that, and we take turns. We should we talk about the money the federal offense we commit? We tear the dollar up.
Good.
so we get. Go ahead.
Oh, so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were done. I apologize, Rob.
Go ahead.
Oh, this is so great. This is wonderful. And the dynamic that you three have put together is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing, again, your experiences and your wisdom with us. Can I ask 2 quick questions on clarity with the structure? One, so it sounds like the goal number 1, 2, and 3 have to do with it's the Sunday planning, the Holy Trinity that Darren talks about. That's the same thing right there. And then big 3 this week and Showtime events this week. Do you pick one, like big 3, you go up here and pick one from each goal and that's the big three, or the showtime events? I'm not sure what that means. How do you maximize those sections down at the bottom?
I mean, I focus on what are my big three things I need to do that week. And then the showtime events are kind of things that are actually showtime events. They're things that are happening that I'm going to participate in, and making sure that I'm there fully and engaged, and making sure that I'm going to be world class in them. So they're not exactly the same, but the three big ones for the week pertain to my three banner goals for the year. But the showtime events could be modification of that. It's something that's going to take place. I'm going to be live and in person, and I better be going full out in that time span when it's happening. And it might just be something I'm looking forward to that week too. Sometimes it's very personal. Like it might be something with my daughters. It's a showtime event, right? I'm going to be engaged and be focused with them. I'm going to spend my time and make sure that I'm there, present with them and fully engaged. So you can have fun with it. I think the showtime events you should have fun with.
Mark Pallack, you want to add to that?
I just focus on that acronym WIN, win, what's important now. So when I'm looking at my calendar ahead for the week, there's certain areas that there's things I need to be, 100% and then just prepared for. And I just gravitate toward those areas. I don't kind of look at my, the big goals, because typically they are part of your big goals anyway. I just kind of focus on the week, what's important now.
And I agree with both of them. So the week is more, to me, more related to the big three, but the showtime event is like if I have a podcast this week, that's a showtime event for me. That might be part of one of the three goals, but it might not be. But if I'm going to a networking event, if I'm going to, like when us three get together for our mid-year review, that week is a showtime event, the mid-year review. So there is a difference, but I'm really glad you asked that question, because I thought about asking Mark earlier to explain the difference of that when he mentioned it. But thank you for asking that question. I hope that helps. Was that helpful?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
And so anyway, so go ahead.
No, somebody asked a question about if you fell off or if you didn't do some things for a couple of weeks. I always go back and write some things in, using my actual professional calendar. So that helps me mentally know that I'm kind of caught up, so to speak. That's what I do.
Yeah, I don't always go back. I just write unacceptable through the whole thing. And I've done that just walk away from it. It's kind of like the Hardy thing. If you fell behind on the modules, they were saying don't go back, too far and just try to start over. Just pick up where you are. And we're all going to do it again probably this year anyway, because it's so much information to try to take in one 12-month period. But I just write unacceptable and move to the next one.
Mark's a hard ass on himself. So, hey, and I don't know how everybody is on time. I didn't set a time on this, but I'm in respect for everybody's time. We've been on an hour, maybe 15 more minutes max. Is that okay with everybody? Because I know we all have things to do. So we wrap it up at the end of the year. We do this end of year review. And the first day we do those, we go to wins, losses, fixes, and lessons, and aha moments and whatnot. But we go in an orderly fashion. So we used to take up just a piece of paper, rip it up in 3 parts, and put Thor, Hawk, and Captain America on it, and you pick, you reach in, and you pull the person's name out. They go first, second, or third. So I don't know whose bright idea it was to start with the money piece. Mark, whose was it?
I don't know.
So I don't know if I should show this or not. Am I gonna get in trouble if I show this?
Just show it.
So we started out year one. We took a $1 bill and we ripped it in 3s, and we put Thor, Captain America, and Hawk on it. And then the second year we started the money thing, we took a $5 bill. And the third year, a $10 bill. Last year, we took a $20 bill. And so this year, I don't know who's up for the 50, but we're Mark, I don't know if it's you or me. It's one of us. But anyway, but that's just a way to have fun to it. But it's like, it's not about the money. It's about who you're becoming along the way. And we just do this as a fun thing. And whether you should do it or not, I just shared it. But anyway, the favorite part I think we all have is the last day of our review and year-end review. And now we've gone over those wins, losses, and whatnot. But the last day, what we do is we're each held accountable to do a 45-minute presentation, usually a PowerPoint presentation of our year in review. And there's lots of pictures, there's emotion, it's laughter, and it's an opportunity to really bless each other with what's happened for the year. And I want to take one step back, because if it wasn't for these two guys and Pete, the third guy that was with us, if it wasn't for them three guys, I have a book that I published 2 years ago. That book probably would still be sitting in outer space somewhere, never being completed. Part of my big three goals for 4 straight years was to write a book. And every year when we went over our losses, I'd have to sit there for 3 straight years and tell these guys, one of my losses this year, they haven't written a book yet. One of the losses this year, they haven't written a book yet. And I did it for 3 or 4 straight years. And I remember the 4th year, we're sitting at the table and it was my turn to talk about losses. And I didn't even finish the sentence. I said, guys, as you know, I haven't finished. And Pete says, whoa, Rob. He goes, and he didn't say it as nice as I'm going to say it. He said, you're either lying to us or you're full of shit. And he didn't say it that nice. He said, you're lying to us or you're full of shit. And I'm like, this is my place in the mountains, and I'm Italian, and this guy's calling me a liar in my house. I was ready to jump across the table and hit him. And I look at Mark Pallack, and he looks at me, he goes, Rob, he's right. For 4 years, you've been telling us you're going to write a book. You haven't done it yet. And I'm looking for help to Mark Brodinsky, and he's like, dude, what can I tell you? They're right on. You know, you've been telling us this for 4 years, you haven't done it. So I committed to these guys on January 1st of 2017 to write that book. And by the end of 2017, the manuscript was written, and then it was published in 2019. But that would not have happened if it weren't for these guys, if it weren't for our group. And if you see this poster behind me, that's a cover of the book that happened because of them. So I'm forever grateful to these guys. But anyway, go forward again. We do this 45-minute presentation, and Mark, just share your experiences with this, because this is our favorite part of the year, and we got music going on. We get a little corny. We just have fun with it, and it's just a blast. But go ahead, why don't you two jump in?
I mean, I was just talking. I was down in Miami. I was talking to a friend, explaining to him what we do for our that last day. I mean, think about putting your life together, and then you have an hour or 45 minutes to talk about it. So you've got pictures as well, right? You're taking pictures and you're creating these slides of your life that show, you know, these different areas in all of our lives, and your big 3 commitments, and all of your lessons that you've learned, and all of your experiences, and all these beautiful pictures you have with your family, and you're celebrating it. It's like your movie that you produce. It's blood, sweat, and tears. And then you're sharing it with people that you love. And quite frankly, you're sharing it with yourself too. It's a big deal, you know. And there's some things on there you're writing some losses or whatever, but it's most of the stuff on there is stuff that you kicked its ass, and it's awesome to be able to do that the way that we do it. And that's another thing. It would be more fun to share that with a couple of people rather than sit and talk to yourself and do a slideshow with yourself, right? I mean, it's not fun, but it's a beautiful day.
And Mark, would you agree, when you're putting it together, even before you share it with us, when you're putting it together, isn't there satisfaction in that? In there, like fulfillment in that to some extent?
I mean, think about it. You're putting all these thoughts and ideas that you've manifested at the beginning of the year or through 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and it comes true. And it's almost like and it's not almost, you're creating these things out of thoughts and ideas. And then when you're able to show these slides with these facts and with these experiences, and you have this profound effect on your life, then you can write stuff down and get it done. You know what it takes. And it allows you to think bigger and bigger about yourself and what you have the ability to do with other people.
Mark Brodinsky, Captain America, what's your thoughts?
Bottom line is that most people who walk the face of this earth will never do what we do once a year. Until you have lived a year of your life in music and pictures and words and accomplishments and graphics and everything else, you haven't lived until you've actually taken a look back at a year in your life and do that every single year. Most people who on this earth do not do that. They just don't. They will never take the time to put it together. They will not share with other people that they love. And it's life-changing. It's life-affirming. And even in the best thing about it is in your worst year, when you put that together, you're like, you know what? I still had a really good year. You know why? Because we're all living. And life is hard, but you're still going to pull out the silver lining in all of it. And most times, because of what we're doing, the work that we've done through that Living Your Best Year Ever journal, the year ends up being pretty freaking good. But to experience that and watch the other person, explain it to you and use their music and pictures, and we all have songs and stuff, and it's really incredible. There's nothing like it, and like I said, most people will never experience anything like it.
I got to say, if I can just add to these two guys, like I'm getting filled up with emotion right now thinking about it. I'm the crier in the group. I'm Thor. I'm the tough guy, but I'm the crier. But anyway, Mark used the word beautiful. It's an experience that very few people are doing or going through, and it's 2 or 3 days that I cherish. I absolutely cherish every year spending with these guys and sharing what our experiences are. And it's our private thing. I mean, it's us. We don't go sharing this with other people. I mean, I might share it with my wife to some extent, or my kids, but really it's just for us three. And it's cool. It's really cool. It's hard to put into words. Wouldn't you say, guys?
Yeah, it's very personal. It's a shame we can't make a documentary out of it because, like I said, most people will never do it, but it's so personal. It'd be tough to do because then you're really sharing all the ins and outs of your being with everyone who would be watching it. But it's a shame because, like I said, to watch it unfold is amazing.
And then we have some cocktails.
Yeah. More than ever.
Does anybody have any questions or thoughts? I know we dumped a lot of fire hydrants and stuff at you over a period of 50, 60 minutes here, but it's a lot going on, but you can make this, you make it yours. You make it what you want. But any thoughts, questions from anybody?
Robert, I got a question. So as somebody who's just starting it right now for the first time, and does look like it's overwhelming, but definitely it's a great payout at the end of the day. Today is, the 15th of November. We have 45 days before the end of the year. For somebody who is starting today, this week, what would be your suggestion? And I guess it's going to come from three of you to most effectively do it and enjoy it, except for the accountability group, which I think is marvelous. Thank you.
Mark?
I would block some time off of your calendar, maybe 2 or 3 hours, so you can get away and spend time with it. And then, as Rob spent, early part of this discussion talking about, it gives you kind of take inventory on your life and where you are, go through that wheel, start to think about your 2 or 3 priorities for the year, how you're going to come right out of it the next day. So get that prep work done. And to me, that way that'll get you in a nice activity, energy, mindset, so that you've got some time to start thinking about it consciously and subconsciously, so that when you come out of that first week in January, you're ready to fly.
Brodinsky.
I was looking at a question. Someone said, what's your process beyond the sharing of the year? Is that just day one and you look forward to next year on days 2 and 3? So it's really like 2.5 days. The first day is spent reviewing your year in categories, and we take breaks. But the second day, by the time you're done that presentation, 3+ hours have passed, and then it's time to get out and do other stuff and celebrate your year. So we don't sit there the second day and just after we're done the presentations and just stare at each other. We usually go out, have cocktails, do whatever, and then we're leaving the next day. And then we have to work on our next year and then present that either right before the beginning of the year or a couple of days after the new year and share each other's what our banner goals are going to be.
Yeah, and so real quick, to allude to what Mark Pallack was saying earlier, like you might have some goals set up for this year already that you want to accomplish or whatnot, and keep working on them. But I'm more like one of those linear guys. I want to go from January 1st to December 31st. So I would use these next 6 weeks, as Mark said, to do the prep work. and get yourself ready to go and get out of the gate on January the 1st. But this really gives you time to contemplate and marinate on those first 70 pages where you're looking back so you can plan ahead.
Right.
And then, so somebody else asked, Brenda Ward asked, you said you fell off for 3 weeks. Do you skip ahead in the book or start back where you left off? I mean, those 3 pages are blank and I just started the next week is what I did. What's that?
We answered that.
Okay. I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, Charlotte.
Because I'm starting this also for the very first time. We had 5 members of our huddle on this call.
Charlotte, you froze. Everybody froze.
So for the guy who was saying it's his first time, I think even in doing the prep work, it's good to have accountability with other people for getting that prep work done.
Oh, I agree. Now, I will say this, by the way, you said you had 5. Mark and I, we've experienced this and we've experienced a max of 4. I think my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, the magic number is 3. Because 2 hours, we're always cramming it in on a Friday for 2 hours. And I mean, we've gotten better, I guess, but Mark, I don't know what you think, but I think the magic number is 3.
Yeah, I think it's open. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Karen, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, if you can't make January 1, don't give it up. And you do whatever year you want. As Darren reinforced that many times, just start your year whenever you're ready.
I totally agree with you.
I mean, it's not going to take you 6 weeks to do the prep. It really doesn't. I mean, you could do it in 3 days. You honestly could. If you actually put focus in on focus a couple hours each day, you can get there. It's not that long. Just got to put in the time.
Oh, Mark and Rob, I have a quick question. Thank you guys so much for sharing with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
I got started on this in September and I kind of fell off. So that was my question. Like, okay, if I messed up, I know I want to get back on. When you get together on Friday for 2 hours, are you sharing each step of the line? I mean, 2 hours is a long time. What are you guys doing for that 2 hours on Friday? And the 30 minutes on Monday?
Go ahead, Mark. One of you.
I mean, it's the 30 minutes on Monday is kind of it is a reflection on the previous week, kind of the current inventory of how we're doing and what our mindset's like and what's happening this week coming up. So we each have roughly, 7 or 8 minutes. That's kind of what we do there. The other part, the way that we've done, we can try to shake it up from time to time, because again, it's just like anything else. If you're doing something, the same thing for 10 years, you got to change it up because we're all growing in different ways. But what we usually do is give ourselves like a time block of say 20 to 30 total minutes where the person can speak for 20 minutes and then they get feedback for 10. So we each have an allotment of time, which I would suggest if you're dealing with a few people, start with, do you want to commit an hour? If there's 2 people, each have, you can go for 25 minutes each or whatever it is. And then think about the content that you want to move toward. You want to get real granular and real detailed with it. You want to get real personal with it and transparent, which I suggest that you try to do as soon as you can. Figure out, the boundaries of it and then let it kind of happen.
2 hours is not that long. When you do the 20 minutes of, you get to recap whatever you've done in the past 2 weeks. Where are you with your 3 banner goals? What things have happened, good or bad? What are you working on? What frustrations have you had? What things you need help with? And what maybe some things you're celebrating? And then the other people have 10 minutes to give you feedback. Plus you got bathroom breaks in the morning. We do a little prayer session before we begin. So by the time you're done, it's almost 2 hours. But I mean, it's 90 minutes of presenting and then getting feedback alone. So by the time you chit chat and, like I said, that bathroom breaks and everything else, then it's almost 2 hours.
And the other thing to add to that is sometimes one of us will come to the table with something that like either bothering us, really pressing or important. And that person might get 30, 35 minutes to talk about it because we'll start asking questions to try to help each other out. And there's never any judgment. There's never judgment. It's just like, how can we help you coming from a place of love?
And it's not black and white anymore either, because we know each other so well. So we're going at it with black and white, but there's always like colors in between those lines because we are like brothers now. So, you know, it might be something personal, emotional that you need to share. So it's more than just the, here are my 3 banner goals, right? 1, 2, and 3. This is exactly what I did. This is my accomplishments. This is where I failed. There's more to it than that.
I think the one other quick thing I would challenge everybody to really think about, and where I've really opened up my life, is that there's 2 or 3 major fears that I've had or seen, and I've written them out over the course of the last decade. And those are the areas where once I get past them and through them, where my life is opened up. So that's kind of personally where this book could have a profound change, is when you move toward these things that you're scared of or really fearful of, where you have your greatest success.
Guys, can I just jump in for a second?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, guys, thanks for putting this on. This is really, really good. I just wanted to add for some of the folks that are just starting, I'm not nearly as structured as you 3 guys are, but I'm at this, I think this is my 4th year, maybe 5th doing this. And you know what, in the beginning, the first time I did it, I was really hung up on trying to get it perfect.
Yeah.
But that was a mistake because that's my personality. But just as the weekly rhythm register allows you to bring consistency to your life and achieving these goals, so does the way you actually do this. It just changes over time and it gets better and better. And somebody said earlier on the call, it's your journal. So this is my journal, right? And after all, I'm not afraid to cross things out, you know, rewrite them if I have to as I'm going through it. So, you know, the main point is don't get hung up on being perfect with it. Just let it kind of organically flow through until you find your own rhythm with it.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Question. Do you take your top 10 and then break them down week by week? Is that how you do this, you know, for your big goal for number 1 and 2 and so forth?
No, I take the top 10 from that prep work at the beginning before January 1st for us. And I take the top 10 and I say, what are my 3 for me? What are my 3 most important goals I want to achieve out of those 10? And then I address those 3 all year long unless I call an audible. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you very much for this. This has been a great help. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any final questions for anybody? Like I said, I didn't set any time limit on it, but you can call this module 22.
Hey guys, this is Michelle here. Thanks so much for putting this on. I just had a really quick question about the PRI on the sides of the big goals. I was thinking it meant plan, review, improve, and how do you use that to score?
As someone else put that question out there before about the PRI, never even paid attention to it.
I think it might be priority.
Priority, yeah. We don't, yeah, we don't pay attention to that.
Be honest with you, where the hell is it?
Because look, Brian, in the every week it says PRI.
Oh, yeah, PRI, yeah.
I never paid attention.
It's priority. It means priority. That's what it means.
Right.
It's priority. Right. I wasn't looking at that because, and again, this book changed from the way it used to be. So again, we don't do it perfect.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is if I'm writing 2, 3, or 4 things down for with my big goal, it is a priority. So I don't really kind of.
Bottom line is if you have 3 banner goals and you track your activities toward them each week, your life's going to change. It's not going to change overnight, but over a number of years it will, if you actually just do that exercise over and over and over. We're living testaments to that. I mean, I've published 3 books. I've published, over time here that I never would have done if I hadn't had these guys in my life. And I've started blogs and have a storytelling business and all these other things I never would have even thought about. It wouldn't have been a thought in my head if I hadn't done these exercises over the course of the past decade. And it makes you think bigger and it makes you strive for bigger goals, and then it makes you reach those bigger goals even more importantly. So, but it's just doing, like Pallack said earlier, the grind. It's the granular work you got to do every single day, every single week, every single year to make change happen. You don't do it one year and go, oh, I don't see my life changing. Well, no shit. Like, you've only done it 1 year. You have to continually put in the work. We're not going to stop this. We haven't arrived anywhere. We're still on this journey to become as big as we can be, impact as many people as possible. And you got to do the little things to make the big impact. And this book focuses on the little things. Every week, every month, every year, just continually going after those little wins and victories and tracking to make sure that you create something that you never thought possible.
And something key to what Mark said, he goes, you're living, right? That's why it's called living your best year ever. It's not like I lived my best year ever. There's a difference between the ED and the ING. This is an ongoing living, breathing document, man. And you take it from year to year to year, you continue to live, and you're living your best years ever. So,
yeah, and there's something in the book they call, and we laugh about it because we know it works. It's called Big Mo. And for Big Mo, it's momentum. And for me, like the visual I always get, it's like that Led Zeppelin song, When the Levee Breaks. So all you're really doing is you're stacking all of these activities, all this energy, all this goodwill, all these adversities, all these challenges. And when you're just pounding it, it's just gonna, because you have faith in the system, that it's just gonna break, and then when you see that rush go out and you see your life start to transform, and when you realize that you can really change some things in your life, you can't control everything, as we all know. That's really where it's kind of the beauties, come out of all this, is when the rushing water starts flowing, you hit dirt. You're there. You celebrate.
and that's what we do. And that's what we're doing another month from now. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. We've been here almost an hour and a half. And if you guys got any questions, you want to jump on the Heroes Facebook page and ask any questions, I'm sure Mark or myself be happy to answer you. But we appreciate you taking the time to jump on. This stuff makes us better, just sharing this. And it's like, this is our way. We got to hold we're sharing this stuff with you. We're telling you we're doing it. Well, that means we got to keep doing it and hold ourselves accountable. So it's great stuff. And we appreciate you and love to get to know you.
Thanks, everybody.
Nice. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
And this is recorded, so I'll figure out a way how to get it on there. So I'll see you guys. Take care. Oh, and Thor's arm fell off. Take care, everybody.